My name is Jenna Blake. I'm 33 years old, and tonight, I drove away from my parents' house with my 7-year-old son Noah, crying silently in the back seat, on what was supposed to be Thanksgiving. But instead of turkey and gratitude, we got humiliated, discarded like we didn't matter. And the cruelest part? I've been paying their bills for 5 years, every single month. Before I tell you how my family shattered me today, let me know where you're watching from. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family. Growing up, I thought we were close. My mom, Teresa. My dad, Carl. Then there was me. And Madison, my little sister, the one everyone said was the fragile one. I was 5 when she was born, and I remember clutching my favorite stuffed puppy, ready to hand it to her like a peace offering to a new best friend. I didn't know back then that I was giving away more than a toy. I was giving up my place in the family. See, when Madison scraped her knee, the whole house rushed to her side. When I broke my arm falling off my bike, I was told to be strong. If she failed a test, they hired a private tutor. I brought home straight A's. Well, of course she did. She's Jenna. At first, I wore the responsible one label like a badge. I studied. I helped out. I stayed quiet. But Madison? She grew up knowing she could twist the truth, cry on cue, and still get comforted. Every mistake she made had a cushion, and I was expected to be the cushion. The truth is, I wanted to believe we were a team, that our parents were fair. But today, when they looked me in the eye and asked me to leave for Madison's sake, I finally saw it for what it was. I wasn't part of the family. I was the sacrifice that kept it running. After everything I've done for them, they still chose her. 5 years ago, everything changed. My dad, Carl, had a mild heart attack. It shook the whole family, or so I thought. During his recovery, I found out the truth. They were drowning in debt. Years of bailing Madison out, paying for her rent, her DUIs, her therapists, her impulsive get-rich-quick schemes had left them on the edge of foreclosure. And what did I do? I stepped in. No questions asked. I cleared the credit card bills, covered their mortgage, paid off their overdue utilities. I even added them to my health insurance. When their old car died, I co-signed a new one. When the roof started leaking, I paid for repairs out of my savings. To date, I've spent over $120,000 supporting my parents. And Madison? She never even knew it was me footing the bills, because they let her believe they were the ones saving the family. Meanwhile, I was skipping vacations, canceling dentist appointments for Noah, and working 60-hour weeks just to stay afloat. There were nights when I cried in silence, answering work emails at midnight while my son slept beside me in our 2-bedroom townhouse. But I kept going, because I believed in family, because I thought I was doing the right thing. Every Sunday, I'd bring Noah over for dinner. I'd smile through my mother's passive-aggressive digs, "You're so uptight with him, Jenna," and listen to my dad's monologues about politics while Madison flitted in and out of rehab, toxic relationships, and spiritual journeys. And still, they called her the one who was going through a rough time. What about me? What about all the nights I stayed up late wondering how I'd make both my mortgage and theirs? What about the birthday parties I scaled down so they wouldn't miss a car payment? They never thanked me. Not really, but I told myself it didn't matter. Because I wanted Noah to have grandparents. I wanted him to know what it meant to have family. But now I see the truth. What I gave was never love to them. It was convenience. And today, on Thanksgiving, the mask finally slipped. They didn't just ask me to leave. They threw away the one person who had held them together all these years, me. This Thanksgiving was supposed to be different. For once, I let myself be excited. Noah's 7 now, old enough to remember things, to build real traditions. I had this vision of laughter echoing through my kitchen, of him helping me baste the turkey, of us creating memories that would last a lifetime. So I offered to host. For the first time ever, but 3 weeks before the holiday, my mom called me with that sugar-sweet voice she always uses before dropping a bomb. "Actually, honey," she said, "we were thinking we'd host this year. Your father's doing better, and it'd be nice to have everyone together, like the old days." I should have seen the signs. The casual dismissal, the subtle shift in tone, but I ignored it. I told myself, it's okay, at least we'll still be together. So I said yes. I offered to bring my cranberry sauce, my grandmother's recipe, the one only I know how to make. She said, just yourselves, and your sauce. Everyone loves that. So I planned. I prepped. I took time off work. I let Noah pick out a button-up shirt, bought a new sweater dress, wrapped thoughtful gifts for everyone, even Madison, even though I hadn't seen her in months and didn't know if she'd show. The day before Thanksgiving, I got another call, this time from my dad. His voice was tight, uncomfortable. Just, be understanding with Madison if she seems off. She and Craig broke up. It got ugly. That was code. Brace yourself. She's back and unstable. I bit my tongue. Then another message. Can you come at 3 instead of 2? No explanation. Rachel, my best friend, raised an eyebrow when I told her. You sure they're not trying to edge you out? I laughed it off, but deep down, I felt it too. Thanksgiving morning came, and despite the uneasy pit in my stomach, I put on a brave face for Noah. We baked pies. He helped me stir the cranberry sauce. He asked if Aunt Madison would be there. I said I didn't know. He was so hopeful. When we arrived at 3 sharp, I noticed the driveway full of cars. Strange ones. No one had mentioned a big gathering, and when my dad opened the door, his smile was tight, forced, and that's when I knew something was very, very wrong. I stepped inside, holding Noah's hand in one, our homemade pies and carefully wrapped gifts in the other. The scent of roasted turkey and sage hit me first, warm, familiar. But the atmosphere? Ice cold. There was no welcome, no hugs, no happy Thanksgiving. Just awkward glances and half-hearted smiles. Noah, innocent as ever, beamed up at my dad. Where should I put the cranberry sauce, Grandpa? My father gestured vaguely. Kitchen, buddy. Grandma's in there. Noah skipped off, eager. I turned to my dad. Is everything okay? He didn't get a chance to answer. Because then, her voice sliced through the hallway like a blade. What is she doing here? I turned toward the sound, and there she was. Madison, standing at the edge of the living room, arms crossed, eyes burning holes into me. Her hair was jet black with streaks of purple, her frame thinner than the last time I'd seen her. But the bitterness? That hadn't changed a bit. My mom rushed over, wringing her hands. Madison, please, it's Thanksgiving. You said she wasn't coming, Madison hissed, pointing at me like I was the intruder. I stared at my parents, heart racing. What is she talking about? They said nothing. Madison took a step forward, voice rising. I told you I wouldn't come if she was invited. You promised. I was stunned. Madison, what is this? I haven't even spoken to you in months. Oh, save it, she spat. You've been poisoning the family against me for years. Noah had wandered back, his little hand finding mine. His eyes were wide, confused. Mom, why is Aunt Madison mad? I bent down, trying to reassure him, but inside I was spiraling. Then came the words that shattered me. Morgan, maybe it's best if you and Noah come another time. From my own mother. And just like that, I understood. I wasn't just unwelcome, I was disposable. They chose her tantrum over my child's joy, her volatility over my loyalty. And when Madison looked Noah in the eye and called him a brat, that's when something inside me snapped. Noah is your nephew, I said, my voice shaking with controlled fury. He is kind, he is gentle, and he did not deserve this. My mother tried to hand me a plate of leftovers like it made up for everything. Keep it, I said coldly. Keep the food, keep the gifts, keep the lies. And I took my son's hand and walked away, not just from the house, but from the illusion I had been clinging to for far too long. Because this time I wasn't just leaving dinner, I was leaving the role they'd forced me into my entire life. The car ride home was silent. Noah sat in the back seat, clutching his bear, his tiny face pressed against the window. I kept my eyes on the road, knuckles white on the steering wheel, doing everything I could not to cry in front of him, but then, his voice, small and broken, cut through the quiet. "Mom, why didn't Grandma and Grandpa want us there?" I blinked hard, a lump forming in my throat. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that sometimes the people who should love you unconditionally are the ones who hurt you the most? "They were just not very kind today," I said softly. "Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices." "But it's Thanksgiving," he whispered. "We're supposed to be together." I pulled the car into a nearby park and turned off the engine. I couldn't keep driving, not like this. Turning around, I took his hand gently. "You did nothing wrong, Noah. None of this is your fault, and no one has the right to speak to you like that." He looked down. "She called me a brat." I closed my eyes, trying to steady the fury rising in my chest. "Well, she was wrong. You are the best part of my life, and you deserve a Thanksgiving full of love, not whatever that was." He nodded slowly, wiping at his eyes. Then he asked the one question I wasn't prepared for. "Can we still have pie?" I managed a smile. "We'll get the best pie, and ice cream too." At that moment, my phone buzzed in the console, missed calls, texts, from my mom, my dad, even my Aunt Carol. "Please don't be upset. Amanda's going through a rough time. We'll make it up to you." They really thought leftovers and guilt texts would fix this? And then I opened my banking app. My heart dropped. $5,000. Gone. Withdrawn that very morning from the joint account I had with my parents for emergencies. A new text came in. "Amanda needed help with some debt. We'll pay you back soon." I sat frozen, the betrayal cutting deeper than anything they'd said today. They hadn't just kicked us out, they'd used me. Again, behind my back, on Thanksgiving Day. Noah tugged at my sleeve. "Can we still have turkey too?" I looked into his hopeful little eyes, and something in me shifted. The sadness turned into clarity. The heartbreak transformed into resolve. "Yes, baby," I said, starting the engine again. "We're gonna have our own Thanksgiving, just you and me. Because from now on, we don't beg for a seat at a table where we're not respected. We build our own table." That night, after Noah had fallen asleep on the couch with a half-eaten slice of pumpkin pie in his hand, I sat alone at our kitchen table, the glow of the oven light casting long shadows across the room. The rotisserie chicken we bought wasn't the centerpiece I had imagined, but for once the silence wasn't filled with judgment, just peace. I opened my laptop, and I started adding numbers. Line by line, I listed everything I'd paid for my parents over the past 5 years. Mortgage payments, utility bills, insurance premiums, car repairs, medical expenses, Madison's rehab stays, emergency transfers. By the time I hit the total, my stomach turned. $153,000. That was the cost of being the strong one, the cost of their love, if you could even call it that. And what had I received in return? Criticism, dismissal, and now, rejection. The contrast was too clear to ignore anymore. I'd spent years sacrificing, not just money, but pieces of myself, to hold this family together. And yet, the second Madison cried, they threw me out like I was nothing more than an inconvenience. No more. I opened my banking app and transferred the remaining balance out of the joint account into my personal one. Then, with a deep breath, I drafted an email to my parents. Subject: financial boundaries and what happens. Next, Mom, Dad. What happened today hurt more than I can fully express. Being asked to leave while my son stood there holding a pie we made together is something I will never forget. Over the last 5 years, I've provided more than $150,000 in financial support. I have attached a detailed summary for your reference. Effective immediately, I am closing our joint account. I am also ending all automatic payments tied to your household. However, I understand change takes time. I have arranged a 6-month transition plan with gradually decreasing support so you can adjust. My financial advisor will contact you to help explore options, downsizing, reverse mortgages, or retirement assistance. This is not done out of cruelty. This is me protecting my son and myself. From now on, I will not accept guilt, manipulation, or silence as a response. I deserve respect. So does Noah. Jenna. I read it 3 times before hitting send. Then I sat back, staring into the quiet. And for the first time in years, I felt something new. Not guilt, not fear, power. Because choosing peace over chaos isn't selfish, it's survival. 3 days after Thanksgiving, I drove back to my parents' house. This time, not with a pie, not with gifts, but with a folder full of truth. Inside were 5 years' worth of bank statements, receipts, and records. Cold, undeniable proof of everything I had done for them, everything they had taken for granted. I sat in the driveway for 5 full minutes, gathering the kind of strength you don't even know you have until life forces you to find it. When my mother opened the door, her expression was a strange mix of relief and guilt. "Jenna, thank goodness, we've been so worried." "I'm here to talk," I said, holding the folder like a shield. "Can I come in?" The house looked just like it did on Thanksgiving, except colder, more artificial. My father stood up from his recliner. "We're glad you came." I stayed standing. "This is everything I've paid for in the past 5 years," I said, placing the folder on the coffee table. $153,000, broken down by category: mortgage, utilities, medical bills, Madison's treatments, everything. They exchanged glances, but didn't say a word. Then Madison walked in. The moment her eyes landed on me, the tension in the room snapped. "Oh, great. So this is what it is now? You showing up with spreadsheets to prove you're better than all of us?" "No," I replied calmly. "I'm showing up to reclaim my worth and to tell the truth, for once." She scoffed, arms crossed. "You're still so desperate to be the hero." "You want the truth, Madison?" I said, my voice unwavering. "You think Mom and Dad paid for your rehab? Your therapy ? Your rent? That was me. Every single time." Her mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes darted to our parents, searching for denial. There was none. "You knew?" she whispered, stunned. "They let you believe they were supporting you," I said, soft but firm. "Just like they let me believe you were just selfish, not struggling with something deeper." She stepped back like I'd slapped her. "I'm done funding this lie," I continued, turning to my parents. "I'm not your bank. I'm not your fixer. And I'm sure as hell not the villain in Madison's story." This wasn't about revenge. It was about boundaries. And finally, I was drawing the line. I stood there, folder in hand, heart still racing from the confrontation, when my mother finally said it. "She's been diagnosed borderline personality disorder almost a year ago." I stared at her, not sure I'd heard correctly. "What?" My father chimed in, his voice tight. "After what happened at Christmas, the outburst, the drinking, the hospital, she was evaluated. The diagnosis came after that." I felt the breath leave my lungs. So all this time, while I was being blamed, guilt-tripped, dismissed, they knew, and they said nothing. "You've been telling me to be patient with her, to understand her, to walk on eggshells around her," I said, my voice rising. "But you didn't give me the one thing that would have helped me actually do that: context." My mom looked down at her hands. "She didn't want anyone to know, Jenna. We were respecting her privacy." "No," I shot back. "You weren't respecting her privacy. You were setting me up to carry the fallout of something I didn't even know existed. You let me believe she was just cruel, vindictive, and you let her believe I was the enemy." Madison had gone still. The color had drained from her face. "So that's why," I said, slowly turning toward her, "you think I turned the family against you?" She nodded once, then shrugged, trying to mask the vulnerability with sarcasm. "I mean, it felt that way." "I didn't," I said. I never did. But when people see the truth and refuse to name it, they fill in the gaps with assumptions. And those assumptions broke us. Her voice was quieter now. You paid for rehab? Yes, I replied. And the therapy, and your rent. And I never told anyone, not even you, because I didn't want to humiliate you. I just wanted you to be okay. She looked genuinely stunned. Why? I paused. Because you're my sister, and somewhere deep down, I hoped that one day we'd find our way back to each other. The room went silent. No shouting, no blame, just grief. Grief for the years lost in misunderstanding, for the damage that could have been prevented if honesty had been chosen earlier. But that grief didn't erase the pain, or the reality. I looked at my parents. I'm sorry Madison is struggling, truly. But from this point forward, my role is not to absorb the consequences of everyone else's choices. My job is to protect Noah. And myself. Madison's eyes glistened, but she didn't argue. Maybe for the first time, she understood. And while I wasn't ready to forgive, not yet, I was finally ready to stop bleeding for a family that never learned how to stop cutting me. The days after that confrontation felt strangely calm. Not easy, not pain-free, but clear, like I had finally come up for air after years of drowning and calling it devotion. I called my office and took 2 personal days, not to rest, but to rebuild. While Noah played with his Legos on the living room floor, I opened my laptop and began the kind of list I had always avoided. A list of everything I had done for them, my parents, every transfer, every bill, every act of silent sacrifice. The number was staggering, $153,000. On another sheet, I wrote what I'd received in return: occasional babysitting, birthday cards signed in a rush, emotional manipulation, and a lifetime of being told, "You're the strong one, you can handle it." Seeing it in black and white was liberating, not because it made me bitter, but because it made me honest, finally, with myself. That week, I had my first session with Dr. Levine, a therapist I'd put off calling for years. I cried through most of it, but it was the good kind of crying, the kind where your body starts to unclench. You didn't cause your sister's illness, she said gently, and you can't cure it. The same goes for your parents' dependence. But what you can do is take responsibility for how long you stay in roles that destroy you. Those words stuck with me, so I made changes. I scheduled a meeting with my financial advisor to formalize the 6-month phase-out plan for my parents' support. No more vague help when needed. Everything had structure, limits, boundaries. For the first time, they would have to adapt, not me. At home, I made changes too. Sunday pancakes with extra chocolate chips, Wednesday library days, Saturday adventures exploring parks, museums, anywhere our feet could take us. Can we invite Tyler and his mom next time? Noah asked one morning, referring to Sophie and her son, our Thanksgiving angels. Absolutely, I smiled. That friendship had grown effortlessly. Sophie's presence felt like sunlight, warm, honest, and never asking me to shrink. One evening as we decorated our tiny Christmas tree, Noah looked up at me and asked, "Mom, are we still a family even if it's just us?" I knelt down, took his face in my hands, and said, "Yes, baby, because family isn't about who's supposed to love you. It's about who does, without conditions." His smile said he understood, and in that moment I knew. We weren't broken. We were free. A month has passed since that Thanksgiving, the kind of month where everything on the outside stays the same walls, same routines, but inside, the foundation shifts. And for me, it did, completely. My parents are still figuring things out. The financial transition hasn't been easy for them, and I won't lie. There were guilt-laced voicemails and emotional appeals at first, but I didn't cave. I stayed firm. I reminded them, kindly but clearly, that love does not equal sacrifice, not anymore, and they adjusted, slowly, uncomfortably, but they did. Madison, for the first time in her life, made a choice for herself. She enrolled in a long-term treatment program in Colorado, far from the family dynamics that kept her trapped in her cycles. Before leaving, she sent me a short message. "I'm sorry for how I treated you. I want to get better. Maybe when I come back we can talk." It wasn't everything, but it was something. It was honest. And after years of lies, silence, and blame, that mattered more than she could possibly know. As for me and Noah, we've started living lighter, no longer burdened by the weight of being the strong one, no longer walking on emotional landmines during Sunday dinners, just living, laughing, creating new traditions. We bake cookies on Fridays, go to the library on Wednesdays, watch movies in a blanket fort on Saturdays. Sometimes Sophie and her son join us, sometimes it's just us, and it's more than enough. One night, as I tucked Noah into bed, he whispered, "Mom, we're a real family, right? Just me and you?" I kissed his forehead. "Yes, baby, we're a real family, because real family loves you without making you prove you deserve it." To anyone watching this who's ever had to walk away from toxic family ties, I know how hard it is. I know the guilt, the second-guessing, the sleepless nights. But I also know this. You are not wrong for choosing peace. You are not selfish for wanting respect, and you are not broken for drawing the line. Sometimes the most courageous act is letting go of what's familiar to protect what's sacred, your peace, your worth, your children. If this story touched something in you, I'd be honored if you liked, subscribed, or shared it with someone who needs to hear this truth. You don't owe anyone your self-destruction just to be called family.